if a snap right happens, do you think that it would improve society or make things worse? Like, what world do you want to live in? Like a hyper progressive world or a conservative world? What do you think?
It depends on what like a conservative world means. Like if I had to choose between Hassan's world or Ben Shapiro's world, I'm probably going with Shapiro's world right now because I don't know like how crazy the like ultra progressive shit is at the moment. Because the problem is it's just hard to tell where it stops.
Right.
Because like they're fully on board with like utilizing violence. They're fully on board with like attack fascists. And it's like, well, who's a fascist? And it's like every single person to the right of Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders isn't even a real socialist, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay.
Right.
Yeah, it's just really, really, really hard. But then here's the really mindful part too, though, is that when you go to Twitter and you go online and you look at the political conversations, the progressives dominate like 80% of the discourse, right? But in reality, the progressives are a very small and politically dead part of the Democratic Party. The Justice Dems have all shifted more towards like Pelosi in the center. They have no political representation whatsoever. Progressives have no political power at all in the United States. But if you go online on Twitter, it seems like they have all the political power, right? Because you can see kind of their policies in social media platforms. Meanwhile, on the Republican side, the Republican Party is actually tearing itself apart under the weight of the Trump fanaticism. It's so interesting to see like how crazy the Republicans are. But then online you go and it looks like, oh, like if aliens came to planet Earth and they were on Twitter, they'd be like, oh, I guess like progressives make up like 60% of Congress. Like that's what you would assume. When in reality, there are no progressives almost like in the Senate and maybe in Congress. Yeah.
Well, one of the interesting things, I'm curious what you think. Do you think that, so I would agree about the political stuff. Do you think that economically companies and like YouTube and these types tend to kowtow to the really loud progressive side?
Yeah, but I think it's just because you make a lot of money doing it. Like, it makes sense. Like, why wouldn't you want to be more inclusive to have, like, bigger and broader audiences for your stuff? Now, some of it gets a little cringy, for sure. But in general, like, yeah, having black people and women and trans people and Indians and Asians and all of that is probably good. It's good. That representation is good. That's, like, one of the good things that progressives push for that I think is fine. I think it's totally okay.
Do you think that, so, like, I would agree about like some inclusivity. I feel like Marvel got really, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just like not understanding. I thought like Marvel's been getting like pretty with some of their like new, like basically once they got onto like the Captain Marvel kind of genre of Marvel, that it's been like less popular, or maybe it's just less popular amongst their old viewers. Maybe that's all that's happening.
Sure. I hate that I know so much about superhero shit right now. It's probably what you're saying is true, but anybody that tells you that Marvel right now is suffering because of woke problems is probably just not a big fan of superhero movies or Marvel. That they just have no idea what they're talking about. They probably are casual watchers or whatever. The problem with Marvel is Marvel built out, imagine Game of Thrones, okay? And imagine Game of Thrones in season 5 kills off all the Starks, all the Lannisters, and then like takes you to like the east part of the world and just starts all over again with like totally different people that you don't care about, who are all like worse than the original people. That's where Marvel is at right now. The issue is that like they had their whole cinematic universe and then it built up to these 2 huge movies, and at the end of those movies they killed off a couple of who were like the most favorite characters that the whole universe arguably revolved around, and now they're trying to find their footing with like new heroes. But like we went from like iconic people like Iron Man and Captain America to like Ant-Man and like a Time Wizard dude. And that's like that's the issue. That's the issue I think with Marvel right now. It doesn't have anything to do with the woke shit. Oh, and then also every single person now wants to have like multiverses and everything, which is like changing how much people care about everything. And then you also run into weird threats. I don't know if you ever watched DBZ, but like every like shonen anime runs into this issue eventually, where like a main villain can like flick his fingers and destroy the entire world. So it's probably hard to ramp up and build threats again. Like in Iron Man 1, like the really interesting threat was some guy building a really big mech suit. Like that was like, holy shit, he's an awesome mech that's gonna like kill people. That's crazy. But like nowadays, every single threat is like, if this guy gets the right stone, he's not even gonna destroy our universe. He's gonna destroy 27 universes. And you can only scale that type of shit up so far before you're like, okay, this is good.
It's like the Bleach problem, where like by season 3, when you're like killing gods easily, it's like, well,
exactly. Where the
your bridges.
Yeah. But
okay, so you think that monetarily, like bowing to the woke is financially acceptable? Because do you think that the studio that made Everything Everywhere, is it Studio A24?
Yeah, that was an A24 film.
Yeah, I feel like they're just like tearing it up. Do you find that they're like super wokey, or because I feel like they do movies in a way that I haven't seen Hollywood do movies in a really long time, and they're like it's fantastic.
So this is going to sound weird, and it's almost going to be a step back to some extent, but there is a good way to do representation, and that's by having like diversity in your cast and your stories is really, really, really good. And I think everybody likes all of these things more for it, but it's not good when you're like, look at this, look at how diverse this is, look, and you're constantly bringing attention to it. I think that is ultra cringe. But like so in the Everything Everywhere All at Once movie, like the mixing in of like, I think it's Cantonese they speak with English, like these types of things are really cool. They make the movie feel very authentic. They get like Asian actors for all this stuff. Like that's really cool. It feels cool. But there's never like, I could be wrong, but I don't think there's ever a moment in that movie where they're like, oh, I'm so glad we did this because we're Asian and we're better than white people, right? Whereas it feels like a lot of movies today would do that. I think that's one aspect that plays into the success of things that are like more diverse and don't try to like bring attention all the time. A second thing that A24 does really well is, I read an article on this once. Apparently, something that we're missing in America right now is people don't make mid-budget movies very often. And mid-budget movies are like this ultimate sweet spot of both having good effects, having good like presence on camera and everything, but also like having like relatively unique and original stories. So making a movie for like $5 to $20 million is like this cool spot where you're not throwing this huge amount of money, but you've got enough to like make a really cool project, and you get a lot of cool, unique stories that come out of that. These mid-budget movies. But nowadays, everybody wants to make like the $400 million Marvel movies, the massive blockbusters, or it's going to be some indie film with like a 6-figure budget, you know?
Right, and they don't want to give $400 million to an untested story.
Yeah, and they don't need to either. Like I'm pretty sure, like if I look at, so Everything Everywhere All at Once, Wikipedia, like this was probably a larger budget for an A24 movie, would be my guess. And the budget for this movie was like about $15-20 million, you know?
Damn. I didn't realize it was so small comparatively. So I agree. I guess my question is, I think the reason why A24 is in part like so successful, and I hope that they don't get destroyed, is because they've like followed the principle of what like particularly like progressives have been always fighting for. But they're applying the principle, not like the law, right? Where they're not being like, where like a girl walks in like a suit and she's like, my name is Black Captain Woman, and I am a woman who is also Black and LGBTQ, and I will stop you. And it's just like, we got it, right? Like it's just so much more natural, where it's just like a normal Asian family. That makes sense. And the Asian daughter is like dating a white girl. All of that makes sense. Sure. It's like bringing up LGBTQ issues in a supernatural human way. Which is why I think they're doing it well. And I feel like if we move like the left back in that direction, I feel like it's going to be like so much more powerful. But so much of like this online progressive space, especially, which I think like the culture war is like these types of movies. Yeah, the online stuff is super cringe. I don't know what to say. All right, bye. Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.